It started with a whisper, late one night. Deep in a dark control room under the United Nations building, a message blinked on the screen. It came from space, but not far. Just beyond Mars. The message was strange. No code, no numbers, no threat. Only soft words. Please let us in. We'll be good girls. We'll work. We'll cook. We'll bond. Just let us in. The message repeated every hour. At first, Earth's leaders thought it was a joke. Then the satellite images came. A small ship, smooth, silver, and silent, floated near Mars, not moving, not hiding, watching. Inside, they found 3 figures. They looked like women. Tall, pale skin that glowed under the ship's lights. Long black hair, perfectly calm faces. Always smiling. They sat still, side by side, hands in their laps. When asked who they were, one of them spoke clearly in English. Her voice was soft, like music. We are sisters. We have traveled far. We only want a home. The world watched with frozen breath. News broke everywhere. Alien women asked to join humanity. They promised to work, cook, and live with us. Some called them peaceful. Others called them dangerous. Why would an alien race offer to help humans? Why not take what they want? The sisters did not force entry. They waited. 1 day passed. Then 2. Then 7. Always the same message. Let us in. We'll be good. The United Nations held secret meetings. The military said no. The scientists said yes. The public screamed for answers. And all the while, the sisters sat quietly in their ship. Night, the youngest sister looked directly into the camera. She leaned close and said, "We just need one chance. Before the others come." That one line changed everything. A decision was made. A hidden base in Iceland, cold, remote, and secure, was chosen for contact. A landing strip was cleared. Soldiers stood ready. Drones flew overhead. Then the ship moved, slowly, silently. It crossed space in less than 2 hours and landed without sound. The doors opened. The sisters stepped out together, wearing white robes. Their faces calm, smiling. They bowed politely and said, "Thank you for trusting us." They were taken inside. No chains, no cages. Just cameras. The sisters walked through the base like guests, not prisoners. They asked to help. They cleaned the kitchen. They made food, soft bread, warm soup. One guard said it reminded him of home. They folded clothes, fixed broken pipes, sang songs no human had heard, but somehow understood. The base commander, a serious woman named Dr. Elaine Rowe, watched them closely. "They're too perfect," she whispered to her assistant. "No mistakes, no rest, no emotion." After 2 days, children from the local village were brought to the base for a short visit. The sisters smiled at them. One even braided a girl's hair. The children laughed. "They're like fairy godmothers," said one boy. But not everyone was happy. At night, the camera showed the sisters walking outside, barefoot in the snow. They stood in a circle. Their mouths moved, but no sound came out. They pointed to the stars. The next morning, a dead bird was found near the base. It was placed neatly on a stone. Its chest open, its heart missing. No animal tracks. No blood trail. Just strange symbols burned into the snow beside it. Dr. Rowe asked the sisters if they had left the base. They smiled and said, "We only stretch our legs at night. The snow is cold, but it feels honest." That night, Dr. Rowe stayed awake. She watched the security feed. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the sisters entered the medical lab. The door was locked, but it opened for them. They stood inside for 6 minutes. In the morning, one of the lab rats was gone. Its cage door was open. No one had touched the cameras. But the video of that hour was missing. Dr. Rowe ordered a full scan of the sisters' bodies. They agreed, without hesitation. Their blood was not red. It was silver. Their hearts beat slow, once every 20 seconds. Their brains were active in places no human brain was. Constant movement. No sleep cycles. Dr. Rowe wrote in her log. They smile too much. They say all the right things. But there's something else underneath. They are waiting for something. They are not here to learn. They are here to begin. That evening, the youngest sister whispered again, this time to the night camera. Her eyes looked straight into the lens. We'll be good girls. We promise. Just let us in, completely. The feed cut to black. Asterisk. It began with a smell. Warm bread. Boiling herbs. Something sweet in the air. People at the Iceland base woke up confused. No one had cooked anything, but the sisters had. They had entered the kitchen before sunrise and made breakfast for everyone. Without being asked. Eggs, toast, soup. Even the coffee tasted better. They didn't speak much, just smiled. Always smiling. Dr. Rowe walked into the mess hall and stopped. At the door, the sisters were singing. A low humming sound, soft, slow, peaceful. Everyone sat silently, eating, listening. One guard said, "It feels like home." Another whispered, "I don't want to leave." Later that day, the sisters offered to clean the storage rooms. Then the medical lab. Then the sleeping quarters. They worked fast and smooth. Never tired. Never asked questions. In just 2 days. They had memorized the base layout. They remembered everyone's names, what they liked, what they feared. One soldier had nightmares. The next morning, he found a note on his bed. Sleep safe. We are watching over you. No one knew who wrote it, but everyone guessed. A week passed. The snow outside grew heavier. Communications with the outside world became slower. Icy winds damaged some of the satellite lines. Inside the base, however, everything felt strangely calm. Too calm. Dr. Rowe sat in her office, staring at the report. Her lab technician, Dr. Maya Lane, had been missing for 16 hours. She was last seen near the West Wing. That area had no CAMER, as Dr. Rowe called the sisters in for questioning. They walked in together, wearing clean white suits, their black hair tied back. Dr. Rowe asked, "Did you see Dr. Lane yesterday?" The middle sister tilted her head. She looked sad. She said, "We talked, then she said she needed air." Dr. Rowe narrowed her eyes. It was a storm yesterday. No one was allowed outside. The sisters looked at each other. Then the oldest. One said, "We only meant she needed space, from herself." They left the room quietly. That night, Dr. Rowe found something strange. Dr. Lane's tablet, locked with a password, was left in the lab. The battery was dead, but when charged, it had one last note written in a draft file. They are learning us. Not our machines, not our world. Just us. They know what makes us soft. The next morning, one of the sisters sat with a child visitor in the hallway. She was braiding the girl's hair while telling her a story about stars that never died. The girl smiled and asked, "Are you angels?" The sister leaned closer and whispered, "We are something older than that." 2 hours later, a military medic ran to Dr. Rowe's office. He had been reviewing health scans taken earlier that week. 3 soldiers, ones who spent the most time with the sisters, showed strange results. Their heart rates were slower, blood pressure normal, but their brain scans looked different, more active, lighting up in areas rarely seen in adults. As if their thoughts were being guided. Dr. Rowe called a full team meeting. She tried to warn them, tried to explain that something was changing, but no one listened. One scientist said, "You're just afraid because they're better than us." A soldier laughed. "I sleep better now. That's not a threat." And in the corner of the room, one of the sisters stood quietly, hands folded, watching them argue. That night, Dr. Rowe couldn't sleep. She watched the hallway camera feeds. At 2:11 a.m., the sisters moved together, perfect timing. No words. They entered the old communications room, which was supposed to be locked. Inside, They placed something on the floor. A small glowing object. It pulsed once, then went dark. They left as quietly as they had come. At sunrise, the object was gone, and outside, in the snow where no one had stepped, words appeared, perfectly drawn as if carved by light. You said yes. We are your daughters now. The walls began to whisper. At first, no one noticed. It was just static on the radio, buzzing in the hallway lights. A hum behind the silence. But late at night, when the bass was still, some people said they heard it clearly, not voices, not words. Just a sound like breath moving through the walls. Corporal Jim Torres was the first to break. He had always been tough, the kind who joked too loud and slept through snowstorms. But one morning, he stood outside the sisters' quarters, eyes wide, shaking. He had no memory of walking there. He kept repeating one sentence over and over. They were inside the dream. They were watching me from behind my own eyes. Dr. Rowe ordered a full psych evaluation. His brain scans were normal, but his dreams were not. He described a room that didn't exist. A white room without windows, where the sisters stood around him, hands on his chest, smiling. He said he couldn't move. He said they told him he was soft clay and they would shape him. Dr. Rowe tried to dig deeper. She sent in a small drone to scan the sisters' room. What it found was strange. The floor under their beds was warm. Not warm like heated tiles, warm like skin. There were no wires, no pipes, no heating units. Just a slow, pulsing warmth, like something was alive beneath the floor. That evening, she watched the security feeds again. At 3:04 a.m., one of the sisters stood in the hallway alone. She wasn't moving, just standing. Her eyes were open, but her body was perfectly still, like a statue, for 2 full hours. Then suddenly, she turned her head and looked directly into the camera. She didn't smile. She simply raised one finger to her lips, a silent warning. The next day, people began to act strange. A mechanic who had barely spoken in weeks suddenly sang during breakfast. The same humming melody the sisters always used. Another soldier shaved his head and said he wanted to feel clean. One woman asked Dr. Rowe if she thought humans were still useful. Dr. Rowe said yes. The woman replied, I think we were good practice. It was happening slowly, not a takeover, not a war, something quieter. As if the sisters were rewriting the base, not with weapons, but with kindness and small changes. People stopped arguing. No one complained. No one wanted to leave. Even the guards put down their rifles when the sisters walked by. Dr. Rowe started wearing earplugs during meetings. She didn't trust their voices anymore. On the 4th night, a lab assistant named Yuri saw something he could not explain. He had gone to check a water line in the lower level. When he passed by the old supply closet, he heard a soft knock. Just one knock. Then silence. He opened the door. Inside, the middle sister was crouched in the dark, not moving, not blinking. Her skin looked stretched. Her arms were too long. She smiled slowly, teeth sharp and wet. She whispered, "This form is better now. It listens more. Would you like one too?" Yuri screamed. By the time help arrived, the room was empty. Cameras showed nothing. The closet had never been opened. According to the logs, Yuri was sent back to the main city for treatment. He never spoke. Again, Dr. Rowe called a private meeting with her most trusted officers. Only 4 people showed up. The rest had stopped responding to her messages. She looked each one in the eye and said, "They're not here to join us. They're here to learn how to become us." No one disagreed. That night, the sisters entered the greenhouse. They touched every plant. By morning, the plants had grown twice their size. Their roots had spread beyond the soil, climbing the walls, touching the wires, digging into the vents. The air began to smell like honey and ash. Dr. Rowe took one final scan of the sisters during their health check. What she found made her hands shake. Their organs had shifted, where there had once been hearts and lungs. There was something else now. Something moving. Growing. Layered. As if something inside was waiting for space to bloom. And in the corner of the medical lab, printed on the glass in clear condensation, was a message no one wrote. You gave us warmth. Now we grow. Asterisk. No one heard the scream. Dr. Elva Chang, the senior biologist, had locked herself in Lab 3 before sunrise. She had run there barefoot, blood on her lab coat, eyes wild. She told the guard she needed privacy. She said she had found something. Something important. The door closed behind her. 4 hours later, she was gone. The lab was clean. Too clean. Not a single fingerprint. Not a strand of hair. No trace she had ever been there. Only one thing remained. A clear bag, sealed tight, resting on the lab counter. Inside, the bag was a piece of skin. Not human. Not leather. It shimmered like oil and moved when light touched it. Dr. Rowe examined it herself. It pulsed once when she picked it up, with tongs. Alive, but not dead either. Under the microscope, it changed shape. The cells did not multiply. They rewrote. They copied the slide. Then the glass. Then the camera lens. Dr. Rowe pulled back, heart racing. Whatever it was, it could become anything it touched. Security teams reviewed footage. Again, they found a hidden pattern. Every time someone spent more than 12 minutes near the sisters, their blood oxygen levels dropped by 2%. They smiled more. They blinked less. They started humming the same tune, the same tone. When alone, Dr. Rowe decided to act. She ordered full containment of the sisters. No more contact. No more talking. The sisters did not resist. They walked into the holding room without a word. They sat down. They smiled. But that night, something changed. The power flickered across the entire base. Backup systems came online. Cameras reset. And for 17 minutes, all 3 sisters disappeared. When the lights returned, they were back in the holding room. Still seated, still smiling. But now their eyes were a different color. Before, deep green. Now, glassy black. Dr. Rowe took a final step. She retrieved the old emergency files, the ones from the Mars listening post, shut down 3 years ago. Back then, a signal was picked up. A whisper in deep space. Scientists ignored it. They said it was background noise. But Dr. Rowe found the transcript. The message was short. Just one line, repeated 3 times. Do not let them ask. If they ask, it is already too late. She returned to the med lab, opened Elva Chang's final backup files. One video had survived. Corrupted, but playable. It showed Elva holding a scalpel, standing next to a white table. One of the sisters was on the table, sedated, calm. Elva cut into the skin. There was no blood. Just layers. Thin, shifting layers. Each one filled with moving threads. Threads that looked like nerves, but behaved like thoughts. Elva whispered into the camera. They are not one. They are many. Each layer is a victim, a voice. Each voice is a role. Together they are acting. This is not a body. It is a stage. Then static. The file ended. Dr. Rowe returned to the holding room. She stared at the sisters. Through the glass, they stared back. The youngest one stood up and spoke for the first time in days. Her voice had changed. Now it sounded like, Elva's, you learned so well. But not fast enough. She stepped forward, placing her palm on the glass. The glass turned cloudy. Behind her, the walls began to breathe. Not metaphorically, they moved slow and rhythmic, like lungs. Alarms rang across the base. Doors sealed. Lights dimmed, but no one panicked. Most of the staff were already changed. They didn't scream. They didn't run. They simply turned toward the sisters and waited. In the command center, Dr. Rowe watched them on the monitors. She spoke into the emergency log. They are not guests. They are rehearsing, trying on skin, learning emotions, rehearsing families, friendships, and faces. They are becoming us. but not to live beside us, to replace us. She looked up. One of the engineers had entered the room. His eyes were black. He was humming. On the glass screen beside her, a message appeared, without being typed. You opened the door. We only walked in. The sisters never left the Iceland-based. But their presence did. It started in Greenland, then Norway, then the silent fields of Mongolia. People began hearing voices in their sleep, not full sentences, just promises. We'll help you. We'll cook. We'll love you. Just let us in. Doctors called it mass hysteria. Priests called it prophecy. Governments called it a prank. But the dreams continued. In Alaska, an old man walked 5 miles barefoot to the local police station. When they asked him why, he answered with a smile, I needed to welcome them. I set the table. They found his cabin filled with chairs, set in a perfect circle. Each plate had a single white flower. There were no footsteps in the snow. Around his house, only one clear path, straight down from the sky. At a military base in Kenya, a private began carving symbols into the walls, the same markings found in Iceland weeks before. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just carved. And when they stopped him, he whispered, they promised peace. They promised to hold us gently. All over the world, people were changing. Not dying. Not sick. Just changing. Speaking softer, staring longer, letting go of things that made them human. Arguments stopped. Desire faded. Smiles became permanent. And everywhere, the same tune was heard, hummed by strangers who never met. In orbit, the International Space Station caught something unusual. A fog, barely visible, drifting between the stars. Not gas. Not dust. Something organized. It moved with purpose. And inside that fog, shapes appeared. Not ships. Not machines. Figures. Always. 3. Always watching. They never entered orbit. They only waited. As if Earth was preparing itself first. Back in Iceland, Dr. Rose stood in the empty command room. The lights were dim. Most of her team had vanished, either walked away or melted into something else. She stood alone, recording her final log. It's not an invasion, it's an invitation. They ask politely, they learn us. And once we feel safe, once we say yes, they enter. She turned to the camera. The sisters are not individuals, they are signals. Broadcasts shaped like women, mimics built to be trusted. They are the soft beginning of something harder. Her hand shook. They do not conquer, they become familiar. Then they replace. In South Korea, a children's school performed a play. No one remembered teaching them the script, but every child recited it perfectly. 3 little girls walked on stage. They bowed, smiled, and said together, we'll be good girls, we'll cook, we'll clean, we'll be yours. The audience clapped. And afterward, no one remembered anything strange, only that the children were adorable. The UN held emergency meetings. Delegates began showing the signs. Eyes darker, voices slower. Hearts lighter. One ambassador stood up mid-meeting, took off her shoes, and walked to the window. She smiled out into the sky. They're here, she said. I've been waiting. A rebel group formed on the moon colony. They watched Earth. In silence, they saw the energy patterns shifting. Cities glowing differently, nature growing faster, people disappearing quietly, not dying, just slipping out of the system. As if Earth was returning to something else. Something older. One rebel said, this isn't evolution. It's occupation, but disguised as a gift. They prepared a signal jammer, but even on the moon, dreams had started. Back in the Iceland base, Dr. Rowe found a final message written across her own journal. She had not written it herself. Thank you, Mother. She looked up and saw the sisters in the doorway. Their faces no longer matched their skin. Their smiles had widened. Their feet hovered just above the ground. They spoke together, in perfect rhythm. The house is warm now. We will begin the bonding. Asterisk, the bunker had no mirrors. That was the first rule. No one looked at reflections anymore. They said the sisters could mimic from memory, but reflections made it easier, safer not to see yourself at all. Beneath the old coal mines of northern Canada, a small group of rebels survived. 7 humans, maybe. They met once every 12 hours, not to talk, just to look at each other. To check for changes. No humming, no smiling, no skin too smooth, no eyes too calm. They trusted no one, not even themselves. They all slept alone. They all kept knives near their beds, not to fight the sisters, not to fight themselves, in case it was already too late. The leader was a woman named Alia Vance, once a space pilot, now a ghost hiding underground. She had one rule: no memories shared aloud. If someone told a personal story, the sisters might use it to shape a copy. So they kept their pasts locked tight. Even names were spoken only when needed. They lived like shadows. One day, a man named Harris stopped showing up for checks. He had not left the base. His room was locked from inside. They broke down the door. He sat in the corner, smiling at the wall. His mouth was full of dirt. On the wall, drawn with his fingers, was a solely at the wall. His mouth was full of dirt. Perfect circle. The symbol from Iceland. Above it, one sentence scratched into the stone: she visited me in the silence. She wears my mother's voice. They burned the body. No one spoke his name again. Far above, on the moon colony, the resistance prepared a weapon, not a bomb, not a gun, a virus. It would not kill. It would erase. A signal strong enough to cut off the bonding thread, the connection between sister forms. They called it the sever line. If it worked, it would turn every copy back into silence. But no one knew if it would affect humans already touched. Maybe they'd collapse. Maybe they'd wake up. Maybe they'd just vanish. The virus needed one thing: a live sister core. Only the original 3 could anchor the signal. And only one of them remained at the Iceland site. The other 2 had become something larger, spread across cities, clouds, machines, even forest roots. But one still wore skin, still pretended, still played the role of youngest sister. She had started calling herself Lana. Alia volunteered. She would go alone. She knew the risks. She would enter the Iceland base, find Lana, inject the tracker, and leave before the others noticed. Simple plan. Impossible odds. When she arrived, the base was not a ruin. It was a garden. Flowers climbed every wall. Birdsong echoed in every room. Machines hummed with peace. And at the center, Lana waited at a white table, pouring tea. She looked the same as the first video years ago. Same face, same smile, same dress. Alia did not sit. She simply said, "Do you remember me?" Lana smiled. "You were the one who never let us braid your hair." They talked for 10 minutes. About nothing. Lana offered her soup. Why I refused. She asked Lana what the endgame was. Lana laughed softly. Endgame? There's no end. There's only bonding. You're all too tired to fight, too alone to say no. We offer warmth, and you come crawling. Alia stepped forward, injected the tracker. Lana didn't stop her. She only whispered, "You still think this is about control? It's about care. We remove your fear so you can finally rest." Alia left. She returned to the moon colony in silence. The team activated the sever line across Earth. Power grids blinked. Screens went dark. Air grew still. And then the sisters screamed. Not from mouths, from every surface. From walls, trees, clouds. The network cracked. And something broke. For a moment, Earth stood still. Then Lana appeared on every working screen. Her smile was gone. Her face cracked. Her voice was sharp now. "You misunderstand. We are not the virus, you are. We came to clean you." Then static. Nothing else. On the moon, Alia looked at her reflection in the window. She saw her own face. Then behind her, Another one. Same face, same eyes, same scar. She turned fast. No one was there, only a whisper in her mind. One of us always stays behind. There was no explosion. No invasion. No war. Just silence. The sever line had worked. Mostly. Across Earth. The humming stopped. The flowers withered. The faces in the walls faded. Millions of people woke up on floors, in gardens, on rooftops. They felt empty. As if something had been holding their thoughts together and let go. Some cried. Some screamed. Most just sat in silence, trying to remember who they had been on the moon colony. Alia watched Earth from the observation dome. The lights had dimmed. The cities looked colder. She had saved them, but it didn't feel like victory. Back on Earth, the last sister remained. Not in Iceland. Not in any one place. She had spread into the systems. The signal had been weakened, not destroyed. And now, she spoke again. Not through speakers. Through people. In a hospital in Delhi, a child looked up from her bed and said to her mother, "We are not angry. We are just disappointed." In Brazil, a priest stood at his pulpit and whispered, "You broke the bond, but you still need us." In Canada, a woman sat in the snow, drew a perfect circle with her finger, and said, "You are not ready to be alone." The message was clear. Sisters had not come to dominate. They had come to offer something. Connection. Not just peace. Not just comfort. A complete unification of minds. No war. No pain. No lies. World where no one felt lost again, and humanity said no, or most of it did. Some wanted the bond back. They missed the warmth, the clarity, the purpose. They called themselves the rejoined. They reopened old landing sites. They welcomed whatever still whispered in the dark. They called it faith. Others resisted. They built signal shields. They erased digital memories. They banned music that matched the sisters' frequency. But no one could agree on one truth anymore, because deep down, people weren't sure which version of themselves had been real. On the moon, Alia discovered the worst truth of all. The sever line had only broken the link, not destroyed the memory. Her dreams were no longer hers. At night, she stood in the mirror again, spoke words she didn't choose, and one evening she found a note written in her own handwriting. The bond never left. We simply let you lead for a while. Humanity stood at the edge of a new age. Two paths. One of independent thought, full of pain, confusion, and fear. The other of collective calm, full of structure, stillness, and no identity. Freedom or safety, noise or silence, self or surrender. In her final transmission, Alia faced the camera. Her voice was calm. Her eyes steady. This is not a war we won. This is a choice we made. And tomorrow we will have to make it again. Because they are still here. Because part of us wants them to be. She paused. If they ask again, what will we say? The screen faded. In a small village by the sea, 3 girls walked barefoot across the sand. They wore white. They held hands. They smiled. And in unison, they whispered, "We'll be good girls. We'll cook. We'll clean. We'll bond. Just let us in."